What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. Wherever you're watching today, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward, which runs every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 2. We've got another jam-packed show planned for you guys. As always, Ken Kale will be joining us shortly for the mailbag, and we've got interviews with Tigers ace Matthew Boyd, Evan Woodbury of MLive, Helene St. James of the Free Press, and FSD's Matt Shepard, and of course a lot more. So let's get right into it and bring in Art Regner. Art, I can't believe it's December 1st, the last month of 2020. We got a fresh few inches of snow out there. I don't know how much you got, but I think I got like 2 to 3 inches. Happy December, Art. I'm excited to be here.
Well, happy December to you. Happy holiday season to everyone officially. I know, Daniela, you're a big Hallmark movie fan, Christmas movies. I know that you've watched them, and you would be great. You would be great as a character in one of those Hallmark movies as the woman that hates Christmas movies, and that you would. And it's a typical Hallmark story too. You hate it, you don't like it, you're a Grinch, and everywhere you go, you see like a Hallmark Christmas movie, and you just get meaner and meaner. And then you meet, let's say, Vince out of nowhere, who is a big producer for Hallmark, and he just, he warms your heart, and before you know it, all you do is want to watch Hallmark movies with Vince, and then he produces you, and you become a big starlet for Hallmark. With that Lori, whatever her name is, she's never going to do another Hallmark movie, so there's a spot open for you. Think about it.
I think you said you wanted to write one, so if you ever actually do this, I'll
the one that I want to write. See, I think this would be great. It's a kind of a play on words, and I know you've been there. I think anyone who's from Michigan has been there. I want to write Christmas in Hell, and then parentheses Michigan, because Hell, Michigan is a great place to play. I think that would be a great one, and people would watch that movie. They're easy to write, gingerbread house, ice skating, tree decorating, tree lighting. I mean, they're so formulated, and then there's a misunderstanding. But it's all tied up within 2 hours. Great. They're great. They're absolutely wonderful.
You've got it. It sounds like you have this under control. So December, I guess, for Art means movies, but it also means the end of Movember. Art, is this the last day that we're going to see the Get Up?
Well, I was thinking if I was traveling to Kansas City anytime soon, I may go in there and try to get a free meal or a free drink or two, pretending I am Andy Reid. But I'm pretty, Mahomes was my idea. I was the one who wanted to draft him. You should have been at the draft table in the war room. They all thought I was nuts. I could lay on some thick stuff, and before you know it, I'm eating, big porterhouse and, drinking, whatever I want, wine, all kinds of stuff, because I'm Andy Reid. But I think probably it is going to come off. It was Movember. I know we talked about it. I did it to show solidarity for men's health issues, and also for guys fighting cancer. I did it in honor of Jamie Samuelson, raise some money, which was good. And, get a colonoscopy. I think I said it correctly. I may not have, but I think you all know what I'm talking about. And yeah, so, I mean, it's really weird. 2020 has been a very odd year for all of us. I know that. Several of my friends have had, a little bit of health scares, obviously what happened to Jamie. So I think it's really made me more conscious of myself and my own body and how important it is to take care. And I think it's also given me, and Movember, what I really like about Movember is it is a show of solidarity. I can't tell you, I don't go out that much, but when I do, except for my neighbor telling me I look like Andy Reid, people know that I'm growing this for men's health issues, and they're aware of it, so it's a cool thing. I try to do it every year. The only other time I've ever had a movement to grow hair was many, many years ago. I did beards for Stanley, for the Red Wings during a playoff. I wanted everyone to grow a beard, and I tried to talk the Red Wings into distributing beards to everybody in the playoff crowd, so everybody, man, woman, and child, would have a beard on, to show solidarity for the Red Wings because they were growing playoff beards, or the most of them were, except like Paul Coffey. I don't think he wanted to grow one. But aside from that, I wanted to do beards for Stanley. I've always had trouble growing hair, to be honest with you. It was patchy and all this. Now I've reached an age where I think I can grow a full beard and all that, and I don't want to because
pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually trimmed it. I liked it. This is for Chris Draper, my little soul patch, because I know he's a real big fan of that. But November's cool.
Different reasons that you have facial hair right now, so they're all good.
Right.
You have
right. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it. I'm not. If I were going to Kansas City, I would definitely keep it. And I got the Patrick Mahone story down. It was all me, Andy Reid. I'm the one who wanted to draft him.
Your next Halloween costume, though, I'm going to get you even the face shield that he wears.
Oh yeah. That thing is downright frightening. Doesn't it look like if Freddy Krueger had a dad or something? Or Michael Myers, that would be like his get up. I mean, that's pretty menacing, really. You look at it, it's like, geez, Andy, you don't need a mask. Your face is enough, man. That is frightening.
All right, Art. We'll get back to your Andy Reid look in just a little while, but we're going to move into the big three now, presented by our friends at Chevy. And the first thing we're going to talk about is some Tigers baseball. The non-tender deadline is tomorrow, which means that the Tigers have to offer players on the 40-man roster with fewer than 6 years of MLB service time a contract. And you're looking at those players that are on the list: Matthew Boyd, Jeimer Candelario, Jose Cisnero, Buck Farmer, Michael Fulmer, Nico Goodrum, Joe Jimenez, Jacoby Jones, and Daniel Norris. So a few really big names on that list are, and some of our friends of the show, including Evan Petzold of the Free Press and Chris McCoskey of the Detroit News, have wrote some articles about what they think will happen to these non-tender contracts. Will they be tendered? Will they not? And Chris McCoskey thinks everybody will get an offer from the Tigers, while Evan Petzold said Nico Goodrum and Joe Jimenez are kind of on the bubble. And I'm curious to see what you think. Will all of these guys be offered contracts by the Tigers by the deadline tomorrow?
Well, what's interesting about it is if they tender them offers, whomever they tender an offer to, they have till mid-January to reach a contract agreement. If they don't, then it'll be settled in February by an arbitrator. It's kind of similar to what the Red Wings just went through, with Tyler Bertuzzi or Anthony Mantha. If they would have filed. They file for arbitration. This is more of a tender offer. I look at it, and maybe I'm just thinking too much like a general manager or a rebuild mode. I would qualify all these guys, or tender all these guys, pardon me, to offers, just because I think you could move some of these guys at the trade deadline. Not that I wish they were all Tigers and they were all flourishing, but I think that every one of these players, now granted, they're going to have a pretty good year, you could move for more assets down the road. Much like, what Steve did with Mark Stahl to get that second round draft pick. I'm pretty sure that Al Avila would look at this and say, and you know what? And I'll tell you another thing too. I think a lot of guys are going to be available because of the economics of baseball right now because of COVID-19. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Would I be surprised if a couple of guys like Nico Goodrum or Joe Jimenez? I mean, how far the mighty have fallen. Jimenez was just like the closer of the future for the last several years. We heard about that. I used to hear about it when he was still in the minor leagues. Our good buddy Pat Caputo, you got to watch Jimenez, man. That kid's going to be good. But Nico Goodrum, I put him in the same category as Jeimer Candelario. Granted, he signed from Minnesota. He wasn't traded here. But, this is a kind of a make or break year for Nico Goodrum. He's a great fielder. AJ Hinch is a big fan of his. So I kind of look at it. I'm leaning more towards McCoskey than I am Evan in this one. But I guess I wouldn't be surprised because it's such a crazy year. But I think you tender all of them. You work out either through arbitration or you work out a deal with all 9 of them. Let the season kind of play out, and then at the trade deadline, maybe you can move some of these fellows for assets. Because chances are, unless they signed the long-term deals, and I still don't understand quite the contract mechanics of baseball yet, as well as I do in the hockey side. But I think they're all going to be on one-year deals, so they'll probably be easy to move. Maybe not Matthew Boyd. Maybe the Tigers want him, longer or something. I don't know, but I guess that's my feeling on that. I would like to see. I think all 9 guys will be tendered a contract offer.
Well, we'll find out soon enough. And later in the show, Evan Woodbury of M Live will join us to take a deeper dive into the non-tender deadline. For now, we're going to move on to our second topic of the big 3. And we're going to talk a little Red Wings hockey that's happening overseas. Art, we know we've got guys playing in Sweden, but we're going to look at the Czech Republic and Michael Rasmussen, who's in Austria. In the Czech Republic, we've got the Phils, Filip Hronek and Filip Zadina. Now, they're both playing really well. Filip Hronek has 10 games under his belt, 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points. Filip Zadina has 11 games, 6 goals, 4 assists for a total of 10 points. So almost a point per game, both of them, which is awesome. And then Michael Rasmussen, who I mentioned is in Austria, has played 10 games and he's got 3 goals and 6 assists for 9 points. So it's great to see these guys playing well over there, Art. But I think the most interesting player of those 3, we know that both Filip Hronek and Filip Zadina are going to be Red Wings. For Michael Rasmussen, it's a very interesting year for him, I should say, especially with the chance of an expanded roster. I think he's going to be back for training camp, and he's really going to be trying to make this Red Wings team.
Well, right. I think all 3 of these players, Hronek, Filip Zadina, and Michael Rasmussen, whom I call, of course, Plum, they're all coming back to Detroit. They're not in Sweden. They're not going to be there. The guys in Sweden are going to stay there until the Swedish Hockey League season, until their teams are eliminated or win the Swedish Cup or whatever, the hockey championship is called over there. But those 3 are going to come back. I think those are big years. Hronek's on the team, as we know. I mean, they're just talking about limiting. They don't want him to play 24, 25 minutes a game. But he's on the team. He could be a top pair defenseman. He's definitely going to be on the power play. The Phil is chomping at the bit to get back to Detroit. When I did a podcast with him several months ago now in the Czech Republic, he was hoping that he could board a plane yesterday and fly over to Detroit and play. I think he's focused. I think he's going to have a big year. And don't count out. And, Michael Rasmussen is one of these players that, through the hockey circles, either you like him or you're like, I'm not so sure about Ras because he's big, 6'6", 235 pounds, maybe not the greatest. He's not a real fleet skater, but his net front presence, what he does in front of the net and his hand-eye coordination, I believe is extraordinary. I believe it's second to none. I think that Ras, who's playing center, I'm glad he's doing well in the Australia over there in Austria. I think that all 3 of these guys could be major contributors to the Red Wings, and I'm eager for camp to start. I guess the ice is down, so let's work something out, NHL, and let's get it going, boy. I think we need some hockey here.
Yes, we are waiting very impatiently for some NHL news. So we will have that for you on the Word on Woodward as soon as we get it. But now we're going to move on to our third and final topic of the big 3. Autographs for a Cause and Giving Tuesday. You guys, in honor of today being Giving Tuesday, Autographs for a Cause, the Tigers and the Red Wings have programs where players select nonprofit organizations to support fans that can get autographs in exchange for a monetary donation. Both Tigers and Red Wings players make the choice of where they're going to put the donation. So it's really cool. Each player can kind of pick what cause they want to sign for. And I think it's awesome. So for a small donation, you can get either an autograph for a Red Wing or a Tiger, and you can visit DetroitRedWings.com/autograph or Tigers.com/autographs for a cause for more information. Donations start as low as $15 for the Tigers and $30 for the Red Wings. So of course, it's a really cool thing that they're all doing, Art. Like I said, it's a personal touch from the players where they get to pick what cause they want to donate to, and then fans get to donate to whichever cause they think is the best for them, and they get an autograph in return. I think it's great, and especially in a tough year like 2020, Giving Tuesday means a lot more to a lot of people.
Well, I'm just going to donate to a cause, and because there's only one autograph that I want at this particular point in my life, but it has to be on the item of my choosing. So I'm just going to, I am just going to give a, I'm going to, whatever, this guy here, and I want to show you, as you know, I keep it by my side during the show. It's my Casey Mize I want this autographed. Again, I will figure this out. I want Casey Arthur Mize to sign this, and I keep it right here. I keep it on my laptop. I use it for inspiration, and so I think it's a great idea. I really, really do. Arthur, you're going to have to sign it though 5 times, my friend, because there's 5 of these babies in here.
Oh my goodness! Right. I thought you were going to ask for my autograph.
Who knows, Daniela?
The only person's autograph that you want.
Once you go to Hollywood and become this Hallmark movie starlet, who knows? Maybe one Christmas, you think you're getting a fan letter from some dude in Detroit, and it'll be an autograph C.A. Mize, which will be worth something someday too. So there you go. But again, hey, the Tigers and Red Wings know what they're doing. They're charitable foundations. They're in charge of people that are innovative and creative, all those things, and really raise a lot of money to help the greater metropolitan Detroit community. So hats off to them. I joke because I don't think Casey Mize would ever autograph this card for me. I'm praying that he even talks to me again. But aside from that, his middle name was supposed to be our secret, and I keep saying it over and over and over again. So, I've got some damage control to work on with Casey Arthur Mize. Trust me about that. But I think it's great. I absolutely think it is fantastic. I really do. And again, as I said, not to sound too redundant here, the Tigers and Red Wings get it. They do a lot of great things in this community. So do the Pistons. So do the Lions. I mean, we're blessed with very giving and caring organizations. The 4 professional sports teams, all of them do their part in this area. But the Red Wings and the Tigers, boy, they're tough to beat. They're tough to beat with what they do.
They really are. And that does it for today's Big 3. Remember, you guys, if you're interested in autographs for a cause, visit DetroitRedWings.com/autographs or Tigers.com/autographs for a cause. A big thank you to Chevy for presenting the Big 3. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. You all know what time it is. It's time to get to our mailbag and bring on the first guest. The mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars, of course. And today's guest is Red Wings play-by-play announcer Ken Kal. Ken, I haven't seen you in so long. I'm really excited to have you on the show today. How have you been?
Ho, ho, ho. Happy holidays to you. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. And I figured today get the old Christmas tree in the background because we're ready for the holiday season here in the Kal household. And everything's been good. I missed you, Danielle. I know you've been working on your house, which looks really good. And Art, I know you're always in the Christmas spirit. So I have no concerns about that.
I am almost speechless. It was jaw-dropping. Look at that beautiful setup Ken has in his house. I mean, my gosh, I love the tree there, Ken. I mean, it looks great. You and Darlene, top notch, my friend, top notch. Looking great. I'm in the Christmas spirit. I'm going to be clean shaven soon. And so, I know maybe I can social distance and come over to the house and we can have an eggnog or two.
Sounds good to me. I had the tree up since November 4th, by the way. So I got in the Christmas spirit a little bit early this year.
I think a lot of people
I was, in all seriousness, and I'm not really exaggerating that much, I think I took down last year's Christmas decorations right around November 4th of this year. And now they have to come back up again. So, but it's crazy.
Well, we're all in the Christmas spirit now. Let's get to our mailbag questions. The first one is for you, Ken. Perry from Madison Heights asks, we saw a couple of wings face each other in the Czech Republic last week. What do you think happened when Zadina talked to Hronek about this? All right, we talked about them in the Big 3 too, you guys. Hronek and Zadina's teams playing each other. Zadina really put the moves on Filip Hronek there. You got to wonder, how does that feel? Do you think they had an exchange of words, Ken, after this happened?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a great move by Filip Zadina, and that's a good opportunity right there for fans to look at how far he's come from when he first started with the Detroit Red Wings after he was drafted. We all knew him, that he had a great shot, and he would always seem to shoot from that right circle all the time. But Now we're seeing a lot of confidence in Philip Zadina, and I think a lot of that was brought on last year before he had the leg injury, and he started coming to his own. And now you're seeing some creative moves like he made on Philip Hronik right there in the slot, and that's good to see from a guy that can put the puck in the net. He's got a great shot. On the other hand, you look at Philip Hronik, and he's got to be shaking his head saying, I never saw that move before. I tried to play the body, but he snuck around me. But I'm sure after the game they had a couple of words, but you want to see that. Obviously, you want to see a shooter like Philip Zadina make moves in the slot like that and bury the puck. And also, you want to see Philip Hronik try to learn from that position, and hopefully he can stop a shooter coming in when the NHL starts, and hopefully that'll be really soon.
Well, as we talked about in the big three, Ken, both of those guys are playing pretty well in the Czech Republic right now. So it'll be exciting to see what they do when they return for Red Wings training camp.
Absolutely. And, we're all excited about the possibility of the new season coming up. I'm a little bit nervous, Art. I know the players, and this is out of the mailbag, obviously, but the players and the owners haven't talked in a while. And, here we are getting in the month of December, and, you just hope that the conversations can start a little bit so that we can get going because, once you start to get going and you have a plan, it's going to take some time for the players to get in shape and have a little training camp. So the later you go with this, the more difficult it becomes.
Right. I agree with you. I mean, especially the players that are going to be playing in Canada, because if they're coming from Europe, they're going to have to quarantine for 14 days in Canada before they can do anything. So, and obviously, even though, here in the United States, because of our freedom, we can do virtually whatever we want. So I think what's going to happen is that, we're going to have to wait 14 days anyway. So if you're coming back from Europe and you're an NHL player in the United States, you might as well quarantine for 14 days because that's what they're going to have to do in Canada, and they're all going to start at the same time. Yeah, I don't know. When you hear, things are quiet, maybe that's a good thing. But if they want to get started by January 1st, and and Helena St. James, we're going to talk to her about this. I think there's two things that we already know. They would like to start January 1st, but time is running out just because the days are running out. We're getting closer and closer and closer to January 1st. I know that ice is in at the Belfour Center right now, so maybe the Red Wings can, start practicing a little bit on their own, unsupervised. But I do think that they're adamant on playing in their own arenas, in their home arenas. I don't really think that they want, maybe they start off in those hub cities and you fly in and out, you play like for 12 days, then you go back home for a while. I know that that's being bandied about. The problem is that nobody really knows what's going to happen just because it has been quiet. I would imagine that eventually, Don Fear and Gary Bettman, both very smart men, accomplished men, really are going to figure out that we've got to get going. We've got to play. I think cooler heads will prevail, and they'll eventually work something out. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later. But, I'm a little bit worried. I think we're going to have a hockey season. I'm just a little bit worried it may not be starting on January 1st.
Like I said earlier, impatiently awaiting some NHL news, and we'll talk about that as we get it, you guys. We're going to move on to the next question, and I want both of you to answer this one. I might even have to give an answer to this because I like it. So Evan from St. Clair Shores, shout out St. Clair Shores, asks, NHL 21 has caused a rift, and we need you guys to settle it. Is it really a hat trick if it includes an empty net goal? Ken, you start us off with this one.
Absolutely, it is. A goal is a goal, no matter how you slice it. And even if it's an empty netter, I mean, it's a hat trick. You got 2 goals and you get one an empty netter. Obviously, it's a goal, so you get the hat trick. It might be a little gift, and gifts are okay around Christmas time, as we all know. But it's got to be a goal. I mean, you can't say, well, you got 3 goals and it wasn't a hat trick. So obviously, I think that if you score the empty net goal, it's got to be considered a hat trick.
Art, what do you think?
I agree with Ken. Let me ask you, Ken, how many, and you've called hundreds of thousands of games in your illustrious career, dating back when you were probably doing Royal Oak Shrine or somebody high school hockey when you were like 6 years old. How many times have you been ready to call a goal with a wide open net and the guy misses? Like maybe 50% of the time? It's a lot harder than it looks, even though it's a wide open net. So if you can score, I'm with Kenny. If you can score a goal I don't care how, empty net. I don't care if there's like, the whole blue line, the whole defensive core of the Red Wings is standing in the crease. If you can score, it counts. It counts. But I'm really curious, Ken. I would say more times than not, Ken's ready to do his scores. And I will bet you that it's like he shoots it wide, or whatever. He missed the net. How many times have you done that, Kenny? I would say probably a lot.
The one I remember was against the Washington Capitals in '98 when I can't think of the guy's name right now, but he had the wide open net.
Tikkanen, was that? Was it Tikkanen?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had the wide open net. And I'm thinking the game's over now, and he shot it wide, and then that set up Chris Draper's goal at the end when the Red Wings then took a 2-0 lead. But you're absolutely right about that. I saw he had the wide open net, and I'm thinking there's no way he's going to miss this. I was ready to call it a goal. Thank God he shot it through the goal mouth, and it missed the net.
You know who I think of when we talk about empty net goals, and that's why I agree with the both of you. It's a goal, 100%, because I think of Philip Hronek and I think it was 2 empty net goals that he had last season, where one of them, I think he was at his own net. He shot it down the ice and it landed in the air into the net and got stuck in the back of it. That's really hard to do.
Sure is. I remember that goal.
Yeah, I think we all do. That was pretty cool. I mean, even the Red Wings, usually – even all the Red Wings even talked about it. I mean, when you get your teammates talking about something that you've done on the ice, because they more than not they like to bust your chops and more than anything. But when they're even paying a little bit of a compliment to you, you must have done something pretty extraordinary.
And by the way, just for you trivia buffs out there, Wayne Gretzky's 500th career goal was an empty net goal. So that's a pretty good milestone, right? When you hit 500 goals in the NHL. Well, his was an empty netter. It counted. So I guess in NHL 21, it's got to count. If Gretzky's goal counts, they all count.
Great point, Ken. Then we'll end it on that one. Move on to our last question of the mailbag. Again, I'm going to have both of you answer this. Alice from Novi asks, this may be my favorite baseball highlight ever. A manager challenges a call. It's confirmed. And then the ump holds up a piece of paper. We'll see it in just a few minutes. So they challenge the call. Challenge that, and then they go to the ump, who has a piece of paper, and he's holding it up, and it translates to the word "cool." So there's a lot to take in right here, you guys. What do you think?
Well, I'll answer first on this one, and I think what you're going to see is it's the first base umpire who made the call that's safe that actually holds up the piece of paper, not the home plate umpire. So I've been studying my Japanese, and maybe that looks like cool, but to me, after studying Japanese, it says, don't ever question my eyesight. I was right.
Well, I don't know. Is it me or not? I know that there's a lot of nickname in sports. Is the nickname of that team in the yellow Brothers? Is that where they, the Bonsai Brothers or whatever? I mean, don't get me wrong. Brothers are cool and all that, but is that really... hey, I'm going to the Brothers game tonight. I'm not so sure. It's a very interesting name, very interesting nickname for that team. With that said, look, I think it was kind of a sense of humor there. The umpire is saying, like Ken said, don't you ever question my call. Hey, pretty cool, right? I know what I'm doing. Don't you ever question me again. I mean, you can just tell. He's kind of got that look that. He's kind of got that look that, did I tell you that I'm very well schooled in the martial arts? So enough of that, Mr. Brothers manager. Forget it.
Yeah, that was like a death stare. He was like, don't ever challenge another call.
Yeah, it's like, look, this says cool on it, but I think you know the hidden meaning. You're this close, my friend. You're this close.
It looked like a pair of glasses that he was holding up there on the left side of the paper.
And a sword or something.
Yeah. Really. Really, it's pretty funny. It's actually pretty funny. It would be interesting to see after the game what they both said about that, or if it was even brought up. I mean, I don't know, but if that were to happen here in the United States, that would be like the first story on Sports Center or the top play of the day, and they both would have been asked about it. I mean, we would have seen it on social media. I mean, that thing would have gone viral. It would have blown up if it happened here. Although I really, who knows with the way umpires sometimes are. I mean, they throw guys out for looking sideways at them. So, but that would have been kind of cool if it happened here, because I think it would have been really a major story.
That's what's strange to me, Daniela and Art, is the fact that he had that in his pocket. I don't know how long he had it in his pocket for. So maybe it took a couple of games for him to finally use it and say, "Hey, here's my sign."
He was just waiting for someone to challenge his call. Like, is that what he was doing?
I mean, actually, that's an excellent point. He might have had that. We don't know when he made it. He could have made it last season. He's probably, maybe, who knows? Now we're reading into it. We're creating our own story here. I mean, but it's kind of like maybe he's been challenged way too many times and has been right. And he said, you know what? The next time this happens, I got something in my pocket. I'm going to send a message not only to the brothers manager, but to everybody in the in my Taiwanese baseball league or whatever. Boom, here, here. This is for all of you, but especially to the brothers manager.
I love it. I love it. Maybe we will see it now. Maybe some of the managers in Major League Baseball will be inspired by what they did in the Chinese Baseball League. But Ken, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for the mailbag. That's all the questions we have for you, but we'll be talking to you really soon, hopefully about some good NHL news.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Have a good day, guys.
You
See
too, Ken.
Nice tree.
A big thank you to Little Caesars for delivering the mailbag. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. Excuse me. Woo! It's Little Caesars. I know I probably didn't even have to say that at the end there, but now you guys, we're going to move on to Catching Up with Carly, where Carly is joined by a very familiar face who is always looking to give back, but especially on Giving Tuesday.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm very pleased to be joined by Tigers pitcher Matt Boyd, who is also one of the founders of the nonprofit organization Kingdom Home, something I'm looking to focus on today. But Matt, how are you? How are Ashley and the kids doing?
We're doing good. We've had an eventful off season. It's been a lot of fun out here in the Northwest, but we're good. We're healthy and enjoying being back home.
Love it. All right. So I mentioned Kingdom Home. For those who don't know about the foundation quite yet, can you explain it for everyone, please?
Yeah, totally. So Kingdom Home is a nonprofit that my wife and I started back in 2018. Our goal is to end child sex trafficking through prevention. And right now in Kingdom Home's care, there are 156 boys and girls from ages around 5-6 years old all the way up to 16. Kingdom Home provides for all their educational, spiritual, physical, and all their needs, and just provides a safe place, an atmosphere where they can thrive, where they can live as children should. And that's, it's a safe place. They're getting, they have their own bed, they get food, getting an education, and where a lot of these children didn't have before. Now they have a family and their brothers and sisters and house mothers and house fathers. So it's pretty cool to see it grow. We're really thankful for all the support that we've had from Michigan and Detroit and around the world. And it's just continues to get better and better each day.
That's absolutely beautiful. Incredible that you guys started that. What made you want to start that? Where did the idea come from?
So the idea honestly came from my wife. She was at Oregon State. She got her degree in political science, and she's always had a heart for social justice. It was at that time when we started dating that she really showed me some the injustices of the sex trade, not only in America but around the world. So it was kind of, eye opening to me how prevalent this was everywhere. So out of college, she got a job with an organization called Remember New. They're much bigger. They're in 16 countries and already have over 100 homes. And time came for, she felt called to something different. And a few months after, it was actually Remember New that connected us with um, the first house mother, Dorothy. And from that, we started Kingdom Home, which was at the time just 36 girls. And since then, it's just continued to grow because of just an amazing amount of support that we've had. And it's really, really special.
That is absolutely outstanding. So, what is it looking like right now? I know COVID hasn't been easy for everyone, and especially in your organization. What difficulties have you guys dealt with, and how have you overcome them?
Um, a lot of it has been educational based. It's it's children not being able to go to school. Everything's happened in the homes, which the homes are it's a big family, when it comes down to it. So um, luckily everybody's safe. All the children's and house parents are all healthy. No one's come down with anything, so that's been a true blessing. And luckily their secondary school actually started back up this last week. So the older kids are going back to school. So it's been good. In this time, it's been tough for nonprofits, just kind of, around with so many people kind of being out of work and whatnot. So, luckily, where where things have kind of lacked, other areas have thrived. So we're very blessed in, that we haven't had to change any operational things, and everything is going, as it's supposed to. The only thing actually really the toughest start was that we started construction on our first home, and that was delayed significantly. We were hoping to start at the beginning of last year, but construction started within the last month, so that was exciting. A little delayed, but it's still happening. So that's the great news.
Wow, congratulations on that. This is just very impactful. And I understand, though, that you have a couple virtual events going on for Giving Tuesday. How can people get involved and what can they expect?
Yeah, so tomorrow's Giving Tuesday, and we're hosting just an Instagram, Facebook Live event on Kingdom Home's account as well as my own, and we're gonna have some fun giveaways. It's just gonna be a Q&A, really just showing, just getting to talk about Kingdom Home, getting to talk about where we are as an organization, how we're moving forward. Um, Everything that came with this last year, and obviously I'll be taking any sort of question, whether it's Kingdom Home related or baseball related, and we have some fun giveaways from some cool partners like Igloo and Duke Cannon, and got some memorabilia to give away. So it's exciting. We're it's going to be a fun time, be it about an hour long, and encourage everyone to hop on.
Love it. Well, I'll be there. But Giving Tuesday will also support Autographs for a Cause, where Tigers players like yourself, they will autograph baseball cards in exchange for donation to their preferred nonprofit organizations and the Detroit Tigers Foundation. And I know your teammate Spencer Turnbull is participating as well to benefit Kingdom Home. That's so amazing. Yeah. What does it mean to have the support like that from your teammates?
It's pretty it's pretty special, man. Spencer chose Kingdom Home as his organization to support through Autographs for a Cause. It's pretty cool. Spencer got to come to Uganda with me last year, and we had a great time. I think his eyes were really, really open to kind of everything that was going on. So it was pretty cool that he wanted to take part in it, and that was special to me that I got to show him everything in it. So show him everything that kind of was Kingdom Home and the heart behind it. So I'm grateful that he's part of Autographs for a Cause. That's obviously our nonprofit that we're supporting in that, and really grateful that the Tops and the Tigers Foundation are linking arms in this and helping us support our own nonprofits and things that we're passionate about.
Yes, absolutely. And outside of Autographs for a Cause and heading over to the Kingdom Home Instagram, how else can people get involved and support Kingdom Home?
Yeah, you can visit our website, kingdomhome.org, and on there you can see multiple ways of, ways to link arms with us, whether it's, through like a donation, a one-time donation. We have a few different projects like there on there. One of which is raising money for vans because the secondary school for the children is now 6 miles away. Primary school is right across the street, but we need a way to safely transport the children down to secondary school. So we're raising money for a couple of vans. Another thing on there is just everything that comes with moving costs. Right now, the children are at 4 different homes that we're renting. We've bought land. We started construction on the land. Obviously, moving everything from the homes to the new land is going to incur quite an additional cost. So we're raising money for that as well. And then the last way that you can kind of partner with us in there and link arms is through child sponsorship. So you can actually have more of a relationship with a child where you can sponsor them at anywhere from $20 to $150 a month, which provides for all of their needs. And it's pretty cool. You can exchange letters and choose a child that you're wishing to support. Spiritually, physically, spiritually, educationally, in all those ways. So it's really exciting. And there's also always looking for volunteers. Anyone that wants to link arms with us and go forward in this and donate their time. So that's the other ways. Kingdomhome.org.
Awesome. It's so beautiful to think about supporting these children. And you know what I was thinking about also? It would be a really great gift to give to someone to sponsor a child and donate in their name. Good thinking,
Totally.
right?
That's a
Hey.
good like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Gift giving. Love it. All right. Well, once again, fans, participate in Giving Tuesday by heading over to the Kingdom Home Instagram for a Q&A tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and head on over to tigers.com/autographs for a cause to support. And like I said, you can donate and sponsor some of these kids if you want to do it for yourself. If you want to do it in honor of someone else, put it in their name. But Matt, thank you so much for joining me on Catching Up with Carly presented by Meyer. It's always a pleasure getting to talk to you. Not only are you a great baseball player, but you are also a very inspirational person.
Oh, thank you, Carly. Thank you for having me on. Always enjoy the time.
Thank you so much, Matt. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly. And just a heads up to everybody, Carly did speak with Matt yesterday. So the Instagram Live that's happening tonight at 7 p.m. on Kingdom Home's Instagram. Make sure you're tuning in tonight at 7 p.m. And of course, Autographs for a Cause is going all day long until 11:59 p.m. tonight. You can visit the Red Wings and the Tigers websites for more information. Now we're going to bring Carly back in for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by Points Bet Sportsbook. And today, we hope that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to know when our Red Wings will be back on the ice for training camp. So we're going to talk about some storylines that we'll be watching heading in to the Red Wings new season. So Art, what are you keeping your eye on as we approach the new Red Wings season?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of jobs open. Steve has said that. However, there's one job that is going to be sealed, so to speak, and that's going to be the captain of the Red Wings. And, we know the Red Wings are an Original Six franchise. We know that they've had some illustrious captains over the years. You can go back to, obviously Gordie Howe wore the C, Alex Del Vecchio. When I first became a hockey fan, he was like the Red Wings' longtime captain, almost rivaled Steve. And then we look at the last three captains that the Red Wings have had. Obviously, Henrik Zetterberg, I think a future Hall of Famer. That'll be an issue that I'm sure we'll debate a lot here on the Word on Woodward as his induction gets closer and closer, whether or not he's a Hall of Famer or not. I've already had discussions about that. Of course, Nick, who's an immortal of the game, and Steve, who is also an immortal of the game. I mean, so there's been some really heavy hitters, legends, and as I like to call them, immortals of the game that have worn the C. So when I'm thinking about it, I'm looking at the last couple of years where the Red Wings have not had guys that have worn the C. And Steve has made it clear that he's going to name a captain this upcoming season. I would imagine once everything is settled and they have a start date, and when the Red Wings start training again, whether or not they get the extra week or so because they were one of the 7 teams that didn't qualify, I think they're going to name a captain before all that begins. I think it'd be a great way. And, I have no inside information, number one, but I think that'd be a great way to kick off the season is to have this unveiling of the next captain. Now, I always thought that over the last couple of years, there were two guys who really stood out as far as maturity level, coming out and speaking and taking accountability for the performance of the team in their own game. One was Justin Abdicator, and I think you both know that. Justin was had miserable years the last couple of years as a Red Wing, yet he always took accountability. He wore an A for a reason. He was a true leader. But the one guy that really does, and I wish him nothing but the best to Justin Abdicator, and hopefully he catches on with the team. But without question, the guy that is going to wear this C, should wear this C, has earned to wear the C is Dylan Larkin. And the reason it's Dylan Larkin is for a number of reasons. I mean, imagine the pressure of being born and raised in the greater metropolitan Detroit area, going then, to the development program in Ann Arbor, and then stepping right into the University of Michigan, where you were dominant as a true freshman, getting drafted as you're entering the University of Michigan as a freshman, 15th overall, number one pick by your hometown team, and then making the Red Wings at 19. He's played in the minors, but it was a brief, almost playoff stint with Grand Rapids after Michigan's season was concluded. He left college, joined the Griffins, and the next year he's a Red Wing, and he's been a Red Wing ever since. Now, the reason why it's very, very important and why Dylan has earned it and deserves it is because he's wise beyond his years. He leads that team. He's their best overall player. There's no question. And he talks to the media. He's thoughtful. He does community things. Look, I'll tell you one of the biggest regrets, and this sounds crazy, but every summer, and Carly, I know you've been there too, we go to the Lakeland Ice Arena where his hockey school is. And he's with all those little kids, and he's got his two cousins and his brother. I call them the four knuckleheads. They're out there leading it. I do podcasts with them. But you can tell they give back and they care not only about their community and that ice rink. That ice rink is where they all grew up and where they learned how to play hockey. So they're very loyal to it. But that's that loyalty and that love and affection that he has, and that's a direct result of his parents. His parents are two fine and decent people, and they've instilled not only a good work ethic, but they've instilled a sense of community and spirit for Detroit. Even though neither one of his parents is from here, but they both have embraced this community. They've passed it on to both of their sons, and I just think that Dylan steps into the role. He understands it. He's emotionally ready for it. He understands where the Red Wings are. He wants nothing better than to have that C on his jersey, with that winged wheel crest, and raise that Stanley Cup, much like Steve Yzerman did, many, many years ago. I mean, that's in his mind. He dreams and thinks about it every day. I'm putting thoughts into your mind there, Dylan. but I'm telling you right now, this is an important captaincy where the Red Wings are at, and it's very important because it's being made, and the guy who's going to make this announcement, the guy who decides this, is a guy we call the captain. That in itself will have some pressure to it when Steve Yzerman deems you the guy that wears the C. Granted that Nick and Hank also wore it after Steve, but Steve was captain for 20 years or so. I just think that the time has come. The storyline that I'm following, and I don't even know if it's a big storyline, but the storyline is getting a C on Dylan's jersey as fast as you can, Stevie, and let the chips fall where they may, because you've got yourself not only a great hockey player, a great person, and he is going to be, without question, one of the best captains in the history of the Red Wings, which is saying something. And in the current NHL, they don't get much better with Dylan Larkin as your captain. They just don't. That's what I'm looking for.
As I was introing this segment, I was like, I should probably save Art for last because I think he's going to give a really great answer. And he did, as usual. So here come Carly and I. Carly, one of your favorite Red Wings needs to make a big impact at training camp this year. Yeah. Who's that?
Evgeny Svechnikov. Love the guy. It's a big year for him to prove that he's an NHL caliber player. After losing a few players, as we know, there are jobs to be had. And Steve Yzerman always says it, as we know, there are jobs to be had. So Svech needs to prove he can fill a spot on the Red Wings. He was the top pick for the Red Wings. We know back in 2015, the players like him, the coaches like him. He's a hard worker, and he's a fun guy to have in the locker room. So he brings a laugh, but he definitely brings that kind of driven spirit. Last season, he came off of a season-ending knee surgery. He posted 25 points in 51 games for Grand Rapids. So he's playing well. He's playing really well. I think he deserves a spot on the Red Wings roster, but, let's see what happens. I'm not the general manager, so hopefully Steve finds a spot for him on the roster. I think he could be a third or fourth linesman. But Daniela, we also have someone coming back from a season-ending surgery. Excuse me. Wait, I should say injury. Season-ending surgery or injury. I was right the first time. Wow. Hello. Didn't cup of coffee.
Well, Carly, I do want to start with this. Right. If you're looking for a general manager position, there's one open in Detroit. So if you do want to be a general manager, you could apply for that right now. We could look into that for you. But anyway, moving on, you guys know I had to get that in there at some point. Danny DeKeyser, yes, Carly, he is coming back from a season-ending injury and surgery. You were right on both of those. He had back surgery last season after playing just a few games. And in those few games, he was playing really well. And you said it best yesterday, Carly, when we were talking about this. Danny DeKeyser isn't really that pretty player. He doesn't do too much on the ice where you're like, wow, he's really, really good. But you really notice his absence. He's great in overtime as well and on the penalty kill. And let's be real, the Red Wings don't have very many veteran defensemen right now. They have more now because of free agency. But Danny DeKeyser was really a staple, and I believe he is going to be a staple again this season. And he's definitely going to be able to mentor some of the younger defensemen that are on this Red Wing squad. So I'm really looking forward to him making his return. It's been a long time since he's skated, and I'm sure he's been skating now with the guys a little bit, but really getting back to it has to be really exciting for Danny DeKeyser, and I think he's going to fill a huge hole that the Red Wings were missing last season.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more.
Definitely. All right. I had a question for Art, and I just blanked. I tried to make a note about it. I had a good
Danny D is integral. That was great. And Svechnikov, I think that's a guy, Carly, as you said, we're all rooting for. He's a great guy. I pay attention, and I really think that Danny DeKeyser, he's one of those players that you don't know what you have until it's gone, kind of. Once he went out, he only played 8 games last year, and the Red Wings really felt his lack of presence on the ice. And I love him 3-on-3. I love him in overtime. He's a big lug, but he can skate. He moves great. He finds the opening. He's I know people sometimes knock him because of his contract, which I think is very cost effective. I think that's a good deal for both parties involved. But Danny D, it's going to be great to see Danny D, because as we always say, Danny D, you got your degree. Way to go, buddy.
Love it.
All right, you guys. Well, that does it for Bet You Didn't Know today. Bet You Didn't Know is presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. Carly, speaking of social media, I know that you have some really exciting stuff for us today. It's been a while since we've been on the show. You've had almost a week to cover. So what's been going on?
I know. So just a few days ago, I'm not going to say too much about it because it sort of speaks for itself, but the Tigers did a holiday game pack with a special price. So a few of the Tigers players got together and did a little bit of like a not quite white elephant gift exchange, but I think a couple guys thought it was white elephant. So check it out. It's pretty funny.
Whoa, a 3-game holiday ticket pack.
Oh, wow. Jeez. Somebody really got carried away with the spirit of Christmas. That was me. I got a little carried away.
Wasn't there a $20 limit on the gift? This is $39.
You don't know that.
Yeah, it's advertised on Tigers.com.
What? Oh, shoot. Wow. Okay, well, who cares? It doesn't matter what I spent. What matters is that Christmas is fun, right?
All right, Daniel, you're up.
Oh, hey, for me. What's in here? Oh, come on.
I knitted it for you.
An oven mitt? Okay, all right.
So bad it's good. You love to see the guys acting. But just to clarify, that holiday packet is no longer available if you missed out from your Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. But of course, you guys know you can still buy tickets in different packages. Moving on to the Detroit Red Wings, as we know, the reverse retro jerseys were released and they're available today. And guess who got it? None other than Uncle Joey. So let's see what he has to say about our jerseys.
Cool, so cool. I am going to be playing some pond hockey this winter wearing this, and I'm even going to wear my Joey Kosher Foundation hat. So let's hit the ice. That's where my stick would be.
A beaut, love a good whiteout, and I'm kind of disappointed though that he didn't do the cut it out in the reverse retro jersey. Maybe just because I'm a 90s kid, but hey, looks good on Dave. I'm looking forward to getting one and wearing it. But Daniela, how about you? I dig the white.
I want to try one of those on too. I like them. I know that a lot of people we're like, oh, why didn't we get like the cool, some of the other teams got some really sweet throwbacks, but those are so classic. And we talk about the Red Wings jersey a lot, that it is so classic. It's got the red and white and it's been the same for how long. So appreciate it, people. We've got some great hockey jerseys here.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? But in the meantime, you guys have questions and comments, and we'll answer them on a later Let's Socialize.
Thank you, Carly. That's right, you guys. Make sure you're using the hashtag Word on Woodward. Carly will be looking for your thoughts, comments, and questions. And now we are going to get in to Brush Street Beat. But after Brush Street Beat, I'll let you guys know what's coming up later in the show as well, too. We've got Elaine St. James of the Detroit Free Press joining us to talk some Red Wings hockey, of course, and Art, which I think I heard him giggle at that one, is going to be joined by Matt Shepard for the headliner later. And, of course, we'll catch up with Shep and talk some Tigers baseball. But now we're going to get in to Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren. And today's guest is Evan Woodbury of MLive. Evan, it's always great to have you on the show. Good to see you. How you been?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We were talking about getting in the holiday spirit. It's December 1st now, which is really hard to believe. So we've been talking about Hallmark movies. We've been talking about Christmas trees. So I hope you're in the holiday spirit as well.
About as much as can be. I think everybody's happy. This is month number 12, and we can pretty soon turn the page on 2020 and move on to 2021.
Definitely. We're all excited about that. And of course, we're looking forward to the next Tigers season as well. And the next deadline for them would be the non-tender deadline, which is tomorrow. And yesterday, you wrote an article that said in a normal year, you believe all of these players would receive an offer for the Tigers. And we know very well, like you just said, it hasn't been a normal year. It's not a normal year. So how will this affect the Tigers' decision along with the MLB as a whole?
Well, I'm still, my official prediction is that they're going to bring back all 9, but I don't have the same kind of certainty that I would have if this were a normal year. I think there's a lot of unknowns, not just for the Tigers, but around the league. And I think the perception is that there are going to be a ton of non-tenders flooding the market this week. The free agent market is going to grow, and it's just going to be in kind of an unconventional year in that sense. But if you look at all 9 of those guys, you can envision all 9 of them obviously with a role on the team, even if some of those roles are uncertain right now. But you can certainly envision all 9 of them with a role on the team, and none of them are going to be prohibitively expensive. The most expensive in the bunch probably end up being Matthew Boyd. He's a guy who had some shaky starts last season, but I think would be absolutely stunning if the Tigers non-tendered him. Really, it's kind of an indication of where teams are from a financial standpoint. You look at the Cleveland Indians; they've been either non-tendering or DFAing or trading any guy that in an effort to kind of pare down the payroll. The Tigers have not done that to this point, and I think this will be kind of the first clue about how they plan to embark on this offseason. If they bring back all 9 guys, like I think they probably will, it's probably an indication that they're not going to be in any kind of massive payroll slashing mode like some other teams might be. But it's also an indication that around the league, if we see some unexpected guys hit the market at the non-tender deadline, those are some guys that the Tigers might be interested in. Last year, people forget, Jonathan Scope was not a traditional free agent. He had been non-tendered by the Minnesota Twins. He kind of bounced onto the free agent market unexpectedly late in the process. The Tigers snapped him up. So there could be other guys like that come onto the market this week that the Tigers take a hard look at, because the non-tendered guys tend to be a little bit younger than the traditional free agents because they haven't accumulated enough service time yet.
Well, certainly James McCann was also non-tendered by the Tigers, which allowed him to become a free agent to the White Sox. First of all, Evan, I don't want you to think I'm turning this into a weird version of Where's Waldo, but I think the last time we had you on, I think you were in South America. So I would assume that, are you near the Arctic Circle now or something? I mean, where are you joining us from?
Actually, I got back from vacation just yesterday, so I've been catching up kind of on the stuff that I missed. Fortunately, not a whole lot happened, as it turned out. But no, I was in Colombia for my vacation in beautiful Cartagena, Cali, Medellin. So I have not seen snowfall, and I'm not looking forward to seeing snowfall for as long as I can possibly avoid doing so.
Well, it's great to have you back here in the United States. And, I'm curious, and maybe I'm thinking too much about like maybe a general manager or what you could do. I mean, you're right. First of all, there's no salary cap in baseball. So even though I'm sure the Tigers have a budget that they want to stay in, but I look at these 9 players, depending, and it's a bit of a risk, but depending on the season they have, couldn't these be guys that you could move some at the trade deadline and maybe acquire more assets? I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't tender these 9 guys.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. And I think even if you're not optimistic about some of those guys having, a bounce back season or what have you, I think you still take the chance of coming through with an offer in the hope that you can flip them later on down the line. Obviously, to non-tender Matthew Boyd after missing a couple opportunities to trade him at the trade deadline would not be what you'd want to do. Even Daniel Norris, if you were looking for a reason to non-tender him, you might say, okay, well, we're not sure he's going to be in the starting rotation. He's probably going to be in the bullpen at least for part of the year. So do we want to pay him like a starter? Even if you have that standpoint, I still think, well, maybe there's another team that looks at him as a starter. Maybe there's another team that likes him as a left-hander out of the pen. Maybe there's another team that would be willing to flip him. To me, if you're making a non-tender decision, you say, okay, what would Daniel Norris make in arbitration? Let's say, to pick an easy number, let's say it's 1 year, $4 million. If Daniel Norris became a free agent tomorrow, would he be able to sign a 1 year, $4 million deal? I think he would, because of his age, because of his track record, because of the potential for some upside. So if that's the case, then you tender him a contract, and you either enjoy the benefits of a solid season or you try to flip him at some point, either before the season or during the season. I think non-tendering for a player like that, or for most of the players on that list, it's something that you would do if you're in a real financial crunch, if you have payroll concerns, or if you're in a total tear-down rebuilding process, which the Tigers are no longer in. So that's why I think it would be a surprise, and it would be an indication that maybe they're approaching this offseason differently than what we expected pre-pandemic. But I think just judging by what we know to this point, I think all 9 of them have a solid case for coming back. And frankly, I'd be surprised if any of the 9 were non-tendered.
Evan, you mentioned briefly that after the non-tender deadline is over tomorrow, there could be a larger pool of free agents out there for other teams to make their moves. And you mentioned this too. There hasn't been much activity across the MLB as a whole. So what do you think will happen after this? Will activity pick up, and what will this mean for the Tigers?
I sure hope so, because it has been a quiet winter to this point. And even within the context of the last couple of winters have been pretty quiet for baseball, and there have been a lot more late signings in the last couple of years than there have been historically. There have been a couple pitchers signed. Minor went to the Royals. A former Tiger, Drew Smiley, signed. Another former Tiger, Robbie Ray, signed. So there have been a handful of pitchers that have signed in the last couple of weeks. But by and large, there hasn't been a lot of movement. We've got 2 important weeks coming up, one being the non-tender deadline this week. Some teams and some players, in fact, might be waiting to see what happens, wait to see how the market looks with a flood of new players coming on board this week. Then next week is the winter meetings. Now, it'll be interesting because the winter meetings are obviously being held virtually, and so there may not be the same momentum for trades and signings and the things that normally happen during an in-person winter meeting. In fact, it might just be another date on the calendar. That's the big question. But historically, these would be 2 big weeks for signings, for trades, for all kinds of winter movement before Christmas time, the non-tender deadline, and then the winter meetings next week. So I think from the Tigers' perspective specifically, they may have been waiting to see what happens because you have that first crop of free agents that comes as soon as the World Series is over. Those are the guys that have 6 years of service time. They tend to be a little bit older. Then you have the second crop of free agents coming on board. And sometimes there are some more attractive options, either from a financial perspective or just because they're a couple of years younger. Sometimes you get a chance to shop for some 27 or 28-year-olds instead of some 30, 31, 32-year-olds. And, there can be more value in that. So I'm sure the Tigers have a board of current free agents and a board of potential free agents. And when, things settle down after the non-tender deadline, they may take a harder look and say, okay, this is a guy that we liked among the traditional free agents, but now we have a guy that's a few years younger, might be a tad cheaper. Maybe he's available on a 1-year deal. Maybe we should take a harder look at him. I think a lot of teams will probably do that this week and going into the virtual winter meetings.
Do you then believe that, I know it's been slow, that after the tendered lists are, the Tigers, let's say they tender all 9 guys, but as you said, everyone's expecting some pretty well-known players not to get tendered. Do you think then it'll be a domino effect that we will start seeing some action? Or do you think that, and even though it's virtual, as you said, do you think then, would you be surprised? Let me put it to you this way, Evan. Would you be surprised if the winter meetings start and the next thing we know, and I'm just going to say this because my family is obsessed with him, that James McCann is suddenly signed to a free agent contract by the Tigers? I mean, is that when it's going to start?
Well, that'll be the real question about the virtual winter meetings, whether they'll have that same momentum. Because what happened, if you remember last year, there had been very little movement. The Tigers were very clearly last year looking for a catcher, and there had been very little movement. And then suddenly the winter meetings get underway, and catchers are flying off the shelves right and left. And I think it was the very last day, the very last moment of the last day of the winter meetings, the Tigers signed Austin Romine. And it had gotten to the point where the Tigers had to make a move because the amount of viable catches was falling pretty quickly. So sometimes there can be, that trickle-down effect where one team makes a move, a second team makes a move, and then suddenly the teams that need a player at a particular position, they have to act or else they're going to run out of viable players. So that could potentially happen. The question is, in a virtual context, is it going to have the same momentum as in a real-life one? And, I think the other factor is, from a player's standpoint, is what they're going to do. No one wants to be a player going into February and running out of jobs available and you still haven't signed. So sometimes there can be that pressure from a player's perspective as well. And you look at the pitchers that are signed. I forget exactly what Robbie Ray signed for, but I want to say it was like 1 year, $8 million-ish. So, if you make a fair offer to a player right now, I think there's going to be a lot of impact, momentum for players to say, okay, instead of waiting until January or February to see if things get better, when I don't think things are going to get better, maybe it's better just to take that fair offer right now. So if the Tigers do see someone that they like on that non-tender list, maybe they reach out this week, next week, and a deal gets done faster than we expected to.
Evan, you also wrote about the Rule 5 draft, and I want to talk about this because it's so interesting. It's different from any other sport. And last week, I believe it was, the Tigers protected 4 pitchers by adding them to the 40-man roster, and they were pitching prospects. So now that leaves some other prospects that could be drafted in the Rule 5 draft, but you also said that you think the Tigers will make a selection in the Rule 5 draft, which is next week. I want to ask, what is the process like when you're selecting someone in the Rule 5 draft? It's a little bit different than a free agent. It's different than the entry draft. It's different than really anything. So what are teams looking for, obviously focusing on the Tigers?
Yeah, you kind of can go in 2 different directions if you're picking a player for the Rule 5 draft, because the rule says you have to keep them on the active roster the entire season. And that can be really tricky. You saw with Victor Reyes, who has grown into a great player, or at least a valuable contributor for the Tigers in the last couple of seasons. His first season, he was just terrible, and it was really, really tough for the Tigers to keep him on the roster the entire year. And in fact, the subsequent year, they drafted a pitcher named Greg Garrett, who they could not keep on the roster the entire year just because, things were not going pretty with his roll out of the bullpen, and they could not justify keeping him on the roster. So that's the tough part. You either need to pick a guy that has a real high ceiling, a prospect that's maybe a bit younger but has a high ceiling. Maybe he's not ready for the big leagues right now, but you're going to stash him on the roster and do your best. Or you can take a guy that you think can make an impact immediately. Sometimes that's a reliever, maybe a guy that throws in the upper 90s, maybe hasn't gotten things all figured out, but you say, hey, if we can get him with the right pitching coach, we can tweak a few things. Maybe he can become a valuable role player right now and something greater going on down the line. So you do have two kind of strategies as you go into that. I think when you were in the rebuilding mode, you look more for the high ceiling guys, the guys that maybe are going to struggle this year but are going to be good in 2 or 3 or 4 years. But as you come closer to contention, if you are going to select a Rule 5 player, you look more for a guy that can benefit in some way in this actual season. So, I mean, it's kind of a weird baseball rule that mainly exists so that teams with good farm systems can't hoard all their prospects in the minor leagues. They have to bring them on the roster, or another team can take them. That was the origin of the rule. And it still works that way because it does prompt teams to look at their farm system and say, okay, we want to protect this guy and this guy and this guy. We have to put them on the roster if we want to do that. And that's exactly what the Tigers did last week or a couple weeks ago, and that's what teams around the league did. And that's why, for the most part, it's kind of a scouting exercise to look at the other 29 teams, see if anybody's left unprotected, anybody that is unprotected and that we can hold on the roster for the entire season. And it's difficult to find guys like that, but every once in a while there's a diamond in the rough.
My final question, Evan, is, it's interesting. I like the Rule 5. I know the Tigers have used it, and I don't know if this is the season or maybe next season, because the Tigers minor league system, as we all know, is moving up the charts here, that eventually they can't keep everybody. You just explained the rule beautifully. Do they lose somebody this year, or will they lose somebody next year? Because I think it's a sign of progress if guys are taking guys in the Rule 5 draft that are Tiger prospects, meaning that maybe the Tigers have arrived as an organization.
Right. Eventually, your goal is to be like the Dodgers or something, where they don't select anyone in the Rule 5 draft, and teams are poaching their own roster because the Dodgers don't have enough room on theirs to hold all their prospects. That's where you want to be eventually. And there's no guarantee the Tigers will select someone this year. I just think it's likely. But that's, absolutely, that's where you want to be. And, realistically, I think this year is going to be kind of an even stranger process than usual, because the Tigers had some guys who had, let's say, really nice seasons in West Michigan or Lakeland back in 2019. They didn't get a chance to get to the player pool in Toledo in 2020. So if you want to poach one of those players from the Tigers, you have to rely on your scouting from 2019, and who knows what's happened since then. And that goes not for the Tigers, but for every other team in the league as well. So I think there's always a risk in selecting some of those lower level prospects, but there's even a greater risk now because you don't really know what they've been doing. You don't have any fresh scouting reports on them from the lost season of 2020. And that's why, there's a lottery ticket aspect to the Rule 5 draft. And you may see some teams play a lottery ticket and just select kind of a guy that they liked back in 2019, bring him to spring training. If you like what you see, you keep him. If you don't like what you see, you send him back. Only a small loss of cash payment, I think $50,000, nothing too big. So, you may see some, like so many things this year, there may be some peculiarities to the Rule 5 draft that we haven't seen in prior years.
Just
Thank
when
you,
I thought
Evan.
I was getting good at not muting myself, I did it again. Anyway,
I thought I lost sound for a second.
I got to give Evan credit because he, like the true pro that he is, he just rolled with it, man. It was like, good job there, Evan.
Art knows I'll catch on eventually. Evan, you did a great job. Art knows I'll realize it that I'm muted eventually, and I'll figure it out. But I was just saying thank you for joining us, Evan. It's always great to chat with you.
When I used to do TV, they just said stare at the camera until they say out, and so that's what I was going to do.
Really? Well, you did a great job. The whole segment was great, but right at the end, that was kind of like the icing on the cake. Way to go, Evan.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Evan. And a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Breast Street Beat right here on The Word on Woodward. You guys, we still have a few guests for you on today's show. Art will be joined by Matt Shepard for the headliner in just a little bit. But right now, we're going to talk some Red Wings hockey as we await some NHL news. It's time for Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light, and today's guest is a Word on Woodward returning guest, Helena St. James of the Detroit Free Press. Helena, it's great to see you. I'm so happy you were able to join us again today.
Thank you. I wish we had a schedule and a season to be talking about, but tick-tock on the clock.
Yeah, you've got that right, Helena. It was a quiet weekend in the NHL. We know that the NHL and the NHLPA are working diligently to come to an agreement for return to play part 2, I guess we'll call it. So how are you feeling right now about where they're at and where they're headed?
Well, it's interesting, right? We're looking at December, and I think usually common thinking is you need 6 weeks or so to put out a schedule. Now it's a unique situation with, they're not going to have to worry so much about building availability, except in places such as Detroit and Chicago, Boston, where the NBA also shares a building with a hockey team. But, certainly not concerts and such. But I still think, the January 1st date, starting date to me is looking more and more optimistic. I honestly, I thought we would have something more concrete by now, but apparently they're still working on figuring out how they can make this work.
When you look at it that way, Helena, and you're starting to figure it out, do you think that tomorrow, today actually, December 1st? I'm kind of curious. Do you think that something has to happen this week in order maybe to really hit that January 1st starting date? Because obviously, if the league wants to do two things, they want to really start on January 1st, and they want to at least have each team play in their home rink.
Well, it's interesting, right? I mean, you look at it not just from the perspective of January 1st being when they would like to start the season, but I think December 15th is kind of when teams have been told that training camps might be starting up. And in such case, I mean, I believe, as far as I know, to get into Canada, you do need to quarantine for 14 days. So Canadian teams that have loaned players to Europe need to start bringing them back. And, same with the Wings. I'm not aware that the U.S. has the same quarantine restrictions, but, they need to start thinking about or bring those players back here if they're going to looking at December 15th, and I still haven't heard anything that, the teams that weren't part of the playoff bubble, if they're going to get even a few days, certainly they're not going to get 10 days. I can't imagine that at this point. But if they're going to get, a little bit more of a time, but I don't know that that's really going to happen. I just think there are so many logistical hurdles to overcome that we need to see something soon if January 1st is going to be realistic.
As you said, Helena, it sounds like December 15th was the peg date for training camps to start. But whenever that may be, we talked a little bit about some of the storylines that are going to be, major news heading into training camp. For you, what is the biggest story that you're watching heading into Red Wings training camp?
I just think how the lines are going to shape out. I think for the first time in a while, Jeff Blashill is going to have some options, presuming everyone is healthy, as far as who he can put with whom. I know we've talked about this before, but just having 2, if not 3 lines that on which there are scoring options will be such a change from them from last season. On defense too, a lot of new faces. I think it'll just be, because of all the new faces, a lot of excitement around camp, even though I will miss going to Traverse City. And every time I drive up there, I think of one of my favorite training camp stories involving Scotty Bowman, if you would like to hear that story.
I would.
Yeah, I say go for it. Scotty's stories are always the best.
I heard it from somebody who would know, but apparently he was taking a hot air balloon ride, and it was getting close to when the team was supposed to be on ice, and somebody asked him, don't we have to land so you can get to practice? And Scotty just looks at him and goes, "I've seen them before." So I think that's kind of when you have a Scotty stature, you don't have to be at training camp practices all the time, apparently.
well, he knows what he has. Those decisions were made long ago before training camp even started, especially with those teams. You said something interesting. It looks like this is going to be a condensed schedule, and there are some storylines. Svechnikov has to make the team, or he's going to have to clear waivers. We don't expect Carolina would ever let that happen, especially with his brother, probably speaking in their ear. But it looks like, because of COVID-19 and testing and everything that we've seen go on in college football and in the NFL, they may have to expand their rosters, which actually could help out some of these guys that are on the bubble, like a Svechnikov.
I agree. I mean, I've thought that for a long time now, that if they're looking at, I mean, again, we come back to, if January 1st, I know, I mean, to me, part of it is they have to be done by the time the Olympics begin, because NBC has the TV rights to that, broadcasting rights. If the Olympics come off, who knows about that? But, they're looking at, they can't just go into August and September like they did this year. So they're looking at a compressed amount of time. And yeah, I think, does a 23-man roster become 27? Does it become maybe even 30? If they're going to try and cram 4 or 5 games in per week, I could see a scenario where Steve may have to go out and get a third goaltender. But I think, to your point, absolutely, a guy like Svechnikov may have would have a bigger opportunity. Dennis Cholowski, who needs to show them, what he has, what he can do. Does he belong in the lineup? I mean, he has NHL level talent. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but he hasn't convinced them yet, that he should be a regular in the lineup. Giovanni Smith, maybe the Wings also look at guys like Joe Hicketts and Dylan McElrath. Do they get more of a look just because you need more personnel? So I think there'll be something, I'll be very interested to see what the league does regarding that. And, certainly as we go along, we know the AHL cannot, needs fans in the building in order to operate, to function. And I think, they're looking at the first week of February, but the way the pandemic is going, the way the numbers are going, I don't know that the numbers going to be low enough to warrant even, certainly I don't think, you're looking at capacity crowds until maybe 2022. But even, can the AHL function with, if there's 10% allowed? And, then again, it also depends from state to state and province to province what's allowed as far as fans.
Helena, I want to ask you this because we heard from Steve Yzerman himself earlier. It may have been over the summer, to be honest. I'm losing track of time of when he said this, but he did say that he plans on naming a captain before the start of training camp for this season. That is his plan. And I think we can all make an assumption on who would get that C. Is there any world, Helena, where it's not Dylan Larkin? And do you have your eyes on anybody else that could lead this team?
Well, I certainly think somebody like Luke Glendening is a tremendous character guy, an alternate. But Steve did kind of narrow the field when he said, and gosh, I think this was all the way at the start of last year, which I agree with you, that feels like 50 years ago. He said whoever he names will be captain for a long time. So I think that kind of cuts it to somebody in their early 20s. And no, I'm with you. I mean, I don't see any other candidates than Dylan Larkin, unless Steve wants to wait and name somebody he drafted captain. But I certainly think he thinks very highly of Dylan, and I think Dylan has all the the character, the inner drive to make an excellent captain. And he kind of mentored under Henrik Zetterberg, and I know from the perspective of the media, he's somebody who talked after most games, especially after losses, which is the kind of sign you see in a captain. So I agree. And I do, if I recall correctly, that he was planning to name a captain before the start of this season. Now, I don't know. That's actually interesting. I don't know if he names one now going into 2021, since it'll be a rushed affair and whatnot. Maybe he waits until fall, but whenever he does name one, I would expect it to be Dylan. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would assume it would be Dylan too, but Captain Mo Sider doesn't sound bad either. I mean and that is somebody he drafted. I mean, Steve's going to kind of turn the screw there if he names Mo. Just to everybody who thought he was crazy when he drafted him 6th overall there in Vancouver. When you look at it, you wrote a real interesting article about when this team is going to compete again, and I know we're kind of running out of time here, but we're in such uncharted territory. I hate to sound cliche-ish here, but realistically, when do you think we're going to start seeing them turn the corner a little bit and be that competitive team that Steve definitely will make them into?
Yeah, I think, we're looking at least 2-3 years, if not more, down the road. I mean, the goaltending situation, I know they're set for this season with Bernie and Grice, and Grice has a second year, but I mean, who is their goaltender of the future? They don't really have a definitive one right now. A few years back it was Peter Mrazek, but that really didn't work out to the way they had thought. So I think as far as him drafting, I think you're going to have a very good defense core in a few years, and he's stocking up on forwards. But I think until you have a goaltender that you can really look at and somebody who's going to be with the team for a long time and is a genuine number one guy, I just think and then you have to look at the other teams. I mean, let's presuming it's a normal season again next fall with the other teams in their conference, are they one of the 8 best teams? Are they going to make the playoffs? I just think that that's still several years away. And it's interesting. I think Steve certainly made some changes that are going to make next season's team a good deal more competitive. But I think he'd be the first to remind you that, it took him 14 years as a player to win his first Stanley Cup. And, if you saw my article in Sunday's Free Press, how many times he spent crying in the back room of the Joe till 3-4 in the morning over all the disappointments, and they finally won after the 1989 draft, and we know that's never ever going to be repeated. So I just think we're going to have to be patient, but I certainly do think whenever 2021 season does start, that they're going to be a good deal more competitive, and they'll beat somebody besides Montreal.
Well, we hope it's very soon that we can see them on the ice to start that 2021 season. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's always great chatting with you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Anytime.
And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockeytown. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Another thank you to Helena for joining us to talk some Red Wings hockey. And now I'm going to toss it over to Art Regner, who's joined by one of our favorite Word on Woodward guests.
Well, that's absolutely correct. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite, and a man that I've known forever, longer maybe than I care to admit. Not really, because he's such a good friend. He's my buddy. I love the guy. He's the voice of the Tigers for Fox Sports Detroit. We know him. We love him. He's wearing kind of a battered cap because he's a very serious young man. It is Matt Shepard. Matt, thanks for joining us. What happened? You put it on a bad rinse cycle or something? That cap? It's seen better days.
I bought it like this. It's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to give you that gruff look, but maybe it's not working for me today. By the way, did you see how nice Daniela's room is decorated Christmassy? Oh, yeah. And you got nothing but hockey stuff. She's got nice stockings in the background, but I hope you and Michelle had a great Thanksgiving, Art.
Well, we did. I've got a Brian Eno box set and a couple of classic literature books on top of that, some classical CDs, the Beatles, of course, the Cat Castle. My Red Wing thing. I've got a theme, and I do have Christmas albums. That's sure. A beautiful Stan Getz album with The Girl from Ipanema, one of my all-time favorite songs. But let's get into it.
Not many people have albums anymore, Art. Not many people have albums anymore.
Well, you know what? I have a turntable right here too. So I love to do the twist. I just put out a record. Hey, Michelle, let's do the twist. Although I don't even know if Michelle even knows what the twist is. Well, I moved my computer because you can see I mean, it doesn't matter. Anyway, all right. I want to ask you this question seriously about the Tigers. Both. I think what we love about being reporters and covering athletics is even the off-season stuff happens. You're excited. You're looking for trade deadline or a Rule 5, as we said. Arbitration. Are they going to tender guys? Have you been surprised? And maybe we shouldn't be surprised about anything that's happened in 2020. That there has just been such a lack of, I don't know, movement in Major League Baseball and the Tigers in general?
Yeah, not a whole lot of activity. Mike Minor signing the other day with the Royals on a 2-year deal, going back to a team where he played before. I'm not really surprised because I think there's so much uncertainty about how much teams are going to be able to bring in and how much they're currently willing to spend and how much they actually lost from a year ago. So I'm not completely surprised by that. I do think it'll pick up. It has to pick up. There's too many needs out there for teams, but I'm not surprised that as of December 1st, not a whole lot of waves have been made.
What do you expect the Tigers to do first, I guess? I know this is a really loaded question, but they do have some needs to address, and I want to get into who they're going to tender or not, but I would imagine that sooner or later, the one position that I think they have to address first has to be catcher.
Yeah, I think you're right there, although I think a starting pitcher is pretty important. And the reason I say that, Art, is because the lack of innings on their current, what you and I would consider their starting rotation. All right, if you're talking about Matthew Boyd, you're talking about Michael Fulmer, who didn't throw much last year, wasn't allowed to go past 3 innings because of the injury that he had suffered and was able to recover from. Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, right, Spencer Turnbull. None of those players outside of Matthew Boyd and Michael Fulmer from years gone by have extensive innings work in a full season. So I think getting a starting pitcher, now who that may be, is it Taijuan Walker? Is it Rick Porcello? Is it Jake Odorizzi? Is it Garrett Richards? Is it Corey Kluber? Is it Chris Archer? Is it someone like that? I'm not sure. I mean, it'd be great if it were Corey Kluber from a couple of years ago, because not only was he really good, but he ate a lot of innings. Taijuan Walker's had plenty of injury issues. Rick Porcello would be a really good fit. A guy like Odorizzi would probably command too much money, but he'd be a really good fit. So I think pitching, getting another starter to work in with those guys, knowing how much of a drastic difference it's going to require from last year to this year is among, I think, one of Al Avila's top priorities. Sure, catcher is really important because right now you don't have a starting catcher. I mean, let's be honest. As much as we root for Jake Rogers and a guy like Eric Haas and a guy like Dylan Dingler, who's one of your favorites, and a guy like Grayson Griner, you can't say that one of those guys is considered the starting catcher for the Detroit Tigers in 2021. So I would probably rank it 1A catcher, 1B starting pitcher.
Well, you bring up a good point because, I know on shows in the past with some of our guests, I think Chris McCoskey also brought this up, is that because of the innings pitch, no one pitched their allotted amount of innings. No one, peaked out or anything like that, that we could see a 6-man rotation, starting rotation in baseball, which is really weird because when you and I were coming up, it was a 4-man starting rotation and guys were throwing almost 300 innings a year. I find that really, really fascinating, actually, that, I think you're right. Now that when you put it in that perspective, a 6-man rotation, if this were the Red Wings, I would say that the guy that they would sign would be Corey Kluber, because that's what, from like 10 years, they always take guys that, have done something, might have fallen on some hard times, almost reclamation projects, but the team was really good. So they were able to take chances and risks on guys. I'm looking at, the names, who wouldn't want Rick Porcello back? Your dog made an appearance, I think.
Yeah, no, she seems to always do that, especially when you and I are talking. Yeah, look,
well, it must be my
I think
voice.
You're right about that. The difference with the Red Wings bringing in a guy who, will use the Corey Kluber example, he's 34, right? But 2018, he threw 215 innings, had an ERA of slightly under 2.9. The Red Wing culture allowed them to take guys like that and put them in a spot where they would feel comfortable but didn't have to do too much. They didn't have to be the guy they were before when the Red Wings brought him on. I mean, how many guys were like that? Outside of maybe Larry Murphy, right? I mean, they would bring in veterans, but the veterans who were brought in and used to be a 1 or a 2 defenseman didn't have to be that with the Red Wings. With the Tigers, what you're looking for is you're probably looking for a starting pitcher who could be your number 3, if you think about it. Because if it's Spencer Turnbull, Matthew Boyd, not necessarily in that order, but Spencer Turnbull, Matthew Boyd, Michael Fulmer's still not that deep into his innings yet, okay? And Mize and Skubal, are you really ready to throw them into that? You want them starting every 5th day or so, but not necessarily going to be innings eaters right away. I think you're looking for a guy who you can plug in right after Boyd and right after Turnbull to help the top of your rotation. Unlike last year where they had Ivan Nova penciled in as a guy at the back end of their rotation. Right. Now, I could be wrong with that, but Matt Shoemaker is another one of those guys, the kid from Trenton, Eastern Michigan guy. Those are all names that are a possibility, and I think all those guys fit that description that you and I were just discussing. You could see them comfortably in as the number 3 starter in the rotation, because oftentimes, we in the media, we like to pencil 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right next to their name. That's where I would vision that starting pitcher that they acquire in the free agency to be.
I've always said this kind of jokingly, though, that Rick Porcello had won like 200 games for the Tigers before he was 23 years old. It seemed that he was here forever. Any chance that he comes back? I mean, obviously he's familiar with the situation. He left on good terms. It was a good deal for everybody involved. He went on to win a world championship, win a Cy Young award, even though I know Kate Upton is still burned about that.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'd be a really good fit. He's at that point in his career where he's learned enough and willing to help some of the young guys in this system as we kind of wait for Matt Manning and Alex Faedo to kind of take that torch and jump into the fray. And he could help a guy like Casey Mize. Casey Mize gravitates, you and I have talked about this, gravitates toward those veterans. He's going to learn from Matthew Boyd, he'll learn from Michael Fulmer as well. They need that other veteran he can learn from outside of a guy like Buck Farmer, who's a reliever. And obviously Chris Fetter, the new pitching coach. I think Rick Porcello would be a nice fit for the Tigers in 2021.
Tomorrow, the Tigers have to either tender. There's 9 players that they have to tender a contract offer to, or they become unrestricted free agents. They didn't tender, let's say, James McCann. That's why he was able to sign with the White Sox. He became an unrestricted free agent. I look at this list. Boyd, Candelario, Cisnero, Farmer, Fulmer, Goodrum, Jimenez, Jones, and Norris. Now, I know our good buddy from the Free Press, Evan Putzold, said that he thinks that maybe Nico Goodrum and Joe Jimenez may not get tendered, making them free agents. And I can see his point. I can definitely see his point. And I understand why he may say that. But I look at it this way. And again, maybe I have way too much of a hockey mindset here. And based on what Steve did with Mark Stahl, as I said earlier in the show, to get a 2nd-round pick and take on his contract, I look at these 9 guys. Sure, there's risk involved if you tender them. But you could also move them at the trade deadline and get more assets, because some of these guys are, if they come through for you, I think that they're tradable.
Well, which guys would that be? Look. First of all,
Daniel Norris for sure. He's a left-handed pitcher. Yeah, I think Daniel Norris for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's address, first of all, players on the 40-man roster with fewer than 6 years of Major League Baseball experience and not tendered contracts in the winter, then become free agents. So that's the explanation if people wanted it for tender or non-tender. You're right. The Tigers have 9. Look, Jeimer Candelario is 26 years old. He's coming off Tiger Player of the Year. He's a versatile guy playing each corner. You're keeping a guy like him. Cisnero came into his own last year as a setup guy. You're keeping a guy like that. I'll believe you. Evan Petzold said that there could be 2 guys. Maybe not Nico Goodrum, depending on how they feel about Harold Castro. Maybe Joe Jimenez, because will he accept a setup role rather than the closer role that he thought he was going to be able to excel at? But it's good to have, a bit of a power arm guy coming out of your bullpen who could play in the 8th and the 9th inning for you. So, and is it Brian Garcia? I think a lot needs to be determined. There's a lot of competition there. So I would envision all 9 Let's face it, how much are they going to cost you? Are they really going to cost you that much? Joe Jimenez cost you, what, $1 million probably? So I don't think any of them are super expensive. Knowing, as you and I talked about at the outset, knowing the uncertainty of costs per team, I think most of these guys are very inexpensive and would be ideal to helping the Tigers in 2021. And like you said, also be used as trading chips, whether it be Norris, Matthew Boyd, maybe a guy like Cisnero would be really good. Buck Farmer would be pretty valuable as well. Those are the guys that I could see as possible trade candidates if indeed that's the route they chose to take.
When I look at where the Tigers at, and I know we've tried catching, but we were asked a question last week, I think, in our mailbag, and I really want to get your response to it too. Was they asked, who do you think is going to be the Tigers Rookie of the Year next year? Which is compelling because there's several guys that you could actually look at. Who do you think is going to be the Tigers Rookie of the Year next year?
That's an interesting question, and it's tough to answer because, look, Willie Castro was so dynamic at shortstop in a short period of time. I guess I would tend to believe it could be a guy like Derek Skubal. That would probably be my first intuition. We got to figure out who the rookies are going to be on this team first and foremost. We don't know what the team's like.
Right.
So that's a little challenging. But I haven't given much thought, but that would be my initial reaction would be a guy like Derek Skubal. I don't know how many starts he's going to get, but I think his ceiling is really high.
Well, Skubal, I think, showed in a short period of time that he's pretty unflappable up there, and he has an out pitch. I mean, he really does. I mean, he strikes guys out when that fastball's moving. I mean, you just can't hit it. I kind of obviously lean towards Casey Mize. And the reason I ask you that question, because I think it's going to be one of those rookie pitchers. I really do. They're going to have an impact. They're going to, because they're pitching, if they do have an impact, obviously.
Well, because they're going to be on the team too, right? I mean, we don't know
right.
if Isaac Paredes is going to be on this team playing.
He's playing well, though.
He did hit the ball well, and he's been playing really well in the offseason here so far. So those are all really positive signs, but we don't know that for a fact. Remember, he was brought up under Ron Gardenhire. What does A.J. Hinch think of him? We don't know any of those answers just yet. But I think it's fair to say, look, you just described Derek Skubal. You could use your exact same description as Casey Mize. I think he's unflappable, and I think he's got an out pitch. He just has to, take that splitter and be able to command it a little bit better. My hope is that those are the only two choices. I would like this team to have some guys who are established, right? So you're looking for, you and I have talked about this, you're looking for a corner outfielder. Are you going to get a guy like Jock Peterson, for example? Are you going to get a Robbie Grossman or somebody of that ilk? Who's going to play first base for you? If it's not C.J. Cron, you don't re-sign him. Is it going to be a Carlos Santana because of his durability, or an Eric Thames? Who's going to be your second baseman? Is it going to be a guy like Freddie Galvis who gives you maneuverability? Is it going to be a guy like Jonathan Scope, who you and I both liked an awful lot this past season? Jonathan VR, who, from what I understood in Baltimore, was had a bit of an issue in the clubhouse. But look, his last full season, very productive. I really like Cesar Hernandez, who played, I thought, a really good second base for Cleveland and hit at the top of their lineup and gave them some speed. So there's so many names out there that you could see in a Tigers uniform. My hope is some of those established guys come here, let this team stay competitive, and then as you're bringing up those younger guys and they're learning from some of these veterans, it kind of takes off for them.
I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball your way, and I know we're running out of time here, but I think perhaps the Rookie of the Year is going to be not even officially on the Tiger roster. It could be pitching coach Chris Fetter, because he's going to be dealing with a lot of young arms, and what he was able to do with that pitching staff at Michigan was pretty incredible. I mean, he had several players drafted into the Major League Baseball, and as we know, northern-based teams aren't supposed to go to the College World Series. So I'm really eager to see what Chris Fetter does with this pitching staff.
Yeah, that's a great point, Art. I mean, but one of my favorite moves A.J. Hinch and Al Avila made in the offseason is Juan Nieves is going to be the assistant pitching coach of the bullpen coach. And Juan Nieves is, first of all, is a wonderful man. I mean, I really enjoyed the relationship I had with Rick Anderson, Jeff Pico, two outstanding individuals. if they had to go, keeping Juan Nieves on was, I thought, a brilliant move by the Tigers, because he knows these young guys so well. He has such a good relationship with them. He's such an amenable guy. He's not afraid to tell you what you need to hear, but how he tells it is really important. He's a wonderful baseball guy, and he could easily be a pitching coach in a different organization. The Tigers are fortunate to have a guy like this.
Oh, certainly, Matt. Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to have to end the headliner there. I want to say, as this interview progressed, you got more and more tougher and rugged looking. So the hat it's working, my friend.
That's the first time anyone's ever said that. I'll take it as a compliment. Thank you, my friend.
All right, man, it's always a pleasure. You know that.
All right, pal. Talk to you
I'm
soon.
glad you had a happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you very, very soon. Thank you, Matt.
You bet. All right, buddy. See you.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. Miller Lite, it's the original light beer. It tastes delicious. It's only 96 calories, and it is available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Well, thank you, Art. You and Shep are quite the duo. And now we're going to transition to your favorite trio, everybody. It's time for Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And of course, Carly Johnson is going to join us for this one. Carly, take it away. What do you have for us today?
Thank you, Daniela. And the first question is for you, with Autographs for a Cause being today. We had a fan ask, if you were participating in Autographs for a Cause, what would your foundation be?
This is a really good question, and I didn't even need to think about it. Let's put it that way. The organization or nonprofit that I would pick is Kirk Gibson's Parkinson's Foundation. And that is because I have a grandfather that lost his life due to his battle with Parkinson's. So I always try to donate money where I can. And I always try to be involved with the Parkinson's Foundation and Kirk Gibson's as well. And that's obviously a great tie with him being a former Detroit Tiger and currently a member of the Fox Sports Detroit broadcast team. So I love supporting him. And I know that battle is really hard to fight, and there's good days and there's bad days, and I know that his loved ones have to go through it as well. So it's definitely something that's near and dear to my heart. So if for some weird reason anyone wanted my autograph, that's where your money is going.
Beautiful. I love that foundation. Again, fans, you can head on over to the Detroit Red Wings and Detroit Tigers and partake in the Autographs for a Cause today. But Art, we have a question for you now. Who would you put Evgeny Svechnikov on a line with?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. And I know, right wing, left wing, and all that kind of stuff. I think that I would put him on a line with Nemetsakov.
Okay.
Svechnikov, and I need another cough in there right now. Svechnikov, Nemetsakov, and probably Bobby Ryan. I know that they're all highly skilled players, but Nemetsakov can get the puck to somebody. I think that Svechnikov, in order to get his, and I'm talking to Jeff Blashill on the next show, so I may ask him this question. I would like to put him near with guys who have really good high skill level. Because he's a highly skilled player. I know he's big and he'll do whatever he wants for the team. I envision him, especially because what was he, like the 20th pick overall in the draft or something, first round. I expect him to be a high profile, prolific, scoring, skilled player. I think, he may not be his brother, but he can come pretty darn close. So I might surround him with some really talented, high skill level players. If you put him on a grinding line, and I'm not going to disparage any Red Wing players here and say, yeah, put them on the line with so-and-so, they're just grinders. Even though the grind line is legendary, and I love you guys. You're all close to my heart, all four of you. But with all that said, I think that Svech probably needs a boost and shot of confidence. Putting him with better players and players that are accomplished in this league, I think would be the way that I would go.
Very cool. Love it. All right, well, we'll see. Hopefully he makes the team, and then if he does, we'll see who he's on a line with. All right, last but not least, this one's for both of you. Danielle, we'll start with you, and then we'll head on over to Art. When is it acceptable to start listening to Christmas music?
Never. It is never acceptable.
You know what?
Danielle and I have a running joke that she is the Grinch, but she has really opened up to Christmas lately. Look at behind her. She has singing up already. I'm proud of you. You decorated early.
You can't see it, but my tree is over here.
Is it silver with blue bulbs on it?
No, I wish I can't turn my thing, or I would show you guys, but it actually has a lot of Red Wings ornaments on there. Vince had a ton of Red Wing stuff. Like there's a Gordie Howe ornament. It's a little Gordie Howe. And so he's hanging on my tree. I've got a couple Lions ornaments. It's all sports. I've got a Grinch ornament. Oh, there's one too. He had a Wayne Gretzky little action figure guy. It's a sports tree, but I love it. It looks good. It's red and green.
So wait, what's your answer? Really, it's never?
No, okay. It's December. That's like, you can listen to music today. And I'm not a fan of Christmas music if you haven't caught on. It doesn't get me in the giddy spirit mood unless I'm just not. Justin Bieber's Christmas album.
Yeah, I was going to say, Danielle, Justin Bieber has a Christmas album, I think, or just a song.
No, he's got a whole album, Carly, and it's a good one. But I'm just not, I don't know. It's just me.
Yeah, I get it. I love it. I love Christmas music.
So today, Carly.
I won't start. Well, I started listening to it after Thanksgiving. I was at my mom and dad's house with, all of us siblings were together. My niece was there, and we started decorating and doing, the North Pole houses, because Riley, my niece, is super into that. My mom took them out of storage because she put them away after we were kids, because she was like, this is a lot of work, and no one really appreciates it as much anymore. But now that we have Riley. Anyway, I'm going on a rant. Speaking of rants, Art, what do you think is acceptable?
First of all, I have a couple of things to say. Definitely Daniela is going to be the inspiration for my female lead in my soon-to-be penned screenplay for Hallmark, Christmas in Hell, Michigan, without question. And Vince definitely will come into the store and the shop. All Hell, Michigan is decorated in Christmas decorations except Daniela's shop. And Vince, who's the big Hallmark movie producer, comes in and says, my God, this is really hell. What's you don't have any Christmas spirit? And then the romance and the Christmas spirit builds from there. I can see it. It's going to be a great, great movie. Daniela, you are the inspiration for it. And also I want to ask you, have either one of you have ever made, and when you talked about your Christmas village houses there, Carly, that you made with your little niece, have you ever made gingerbread houses?
Yeah, I don't really. I don't enjoy it. It's not that fun to me. I did it with Riley. I did a haunted house one with her over Halloween, but it was just like more work for me having to put it together because she just wanted to eat the candy and bite the cookies, And I'm like, this isn't going to happen. It's just not. So I just did it. I sort of bite the door and the roof and everything, and then we put it away.
So you disciplined your little niece, who's 3 years old or whatever, because she's a kid. You're making a gingerbread haunted house, which I've never heard before. But okay, that's cool. To each his own. I'm not going to pass judgment. And then the poor little kid, who is a little kid, loves candy, is excited. She's with her Aunt Carly, and then you start yelling and screaming at her because she's eating the door of the house.
No, she started doing it. She started taking a bite of literally everything. And I was like, to be honest, Riley, I don't feel like putting this together because I know I'm going to be the one who has to squeeze the icing. And I'm like, just go for it, boo. I squeezed some icing onto the door and she ate it. Little ghost.
So she actually loves you because you just let her eat whatever she wants. You just go for it. We're not
Riley's house. She gets her chocolate. She gets her cookies.
Well, and you've taught her when the tough get going, when it gets tough, just get up and leave. that's a great Christmas lesson. Hey, Riley, I don't care. Stuff yourself on as much sugar as possible. Your mom and dad, they're going to be into it. I'm out of here. We'll see you, kid. The gingerbread haunted house, which do you have a picture of that, by the way? I'd love to have seen it. The concept. What is the gingerbread? Did you
trying to do it, but it was actually chocolate cookie instead of gingerbread.
Oh, okay.
But
all right. Well, that's good.
Do a Art, you didn't answer the question. When is it
well,
acceptable?
I will answer the question. With my satellite TV package, I get those music channels. I think, if I have, it begins at 800 and 858 is Christmas music all year round. So I listen to Christmas music all year round. Obviously when it gets a little closer and the weather starts to change, I'll listen to it. Usually I have a local Detroit radio station. I'll always have that on in the kitchen, just in the background, so you can hear, because it's uplifting. I really like Christmas music. I like Christmas time, but I think it's because, again, this has to do with growing, where you've grown, how you grew up. When I grew up, there weren't a lot of, there weren't like 800 television stations. So every year when the seasons would change, like there would be like White Christmas would come on, or, there were certain moments, like the Wizard of Oz was shown once a year right around Easter, and that was a big thing. So the reason I'm saying this is because there's certain movies and certain traditions that only happen once a year. And, it was like all your Christmas movies, all your holiday movies, they would all come out from right around Thanksgiving time all the way through Christmas. And I used to love it, because people were a lot less tense back then. They say the holidays, as you build up, but I think at least to each other, people treated each other a little bit better. And I always enjoyed that. And I always liked the songs. And, it's on tonight, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I remember the first time it was on. I remember I was a little boy, but I remember the first time I saw it. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I remember the first time it was ever on TV. I remember, a Charlie Brown Christmas. I mean, I saw the first time it was on TV. That was like appointment viewing. But that stuff stays with you. It stays with you your whole life, And that's why I think that I'm so into it, because a lot of the traditions that I see today, or things that they show, like the Grinch was just on, Rudolph's on tonight, a Charlie Brown Christmas, they finally came to their senses and they're going to put it on free TV for 2 weeks or something, so you don't have to pay for it. But my point being is that because of all that, and it was always something to look forward to each and every year, I really like Christmas, and it really gives me, a lot of great memories about my past and growing up, and all that kind of stuff. I know, Daniela, I know you're chomping at the bit to just kind of poo-poo this whole thing.
No, I'm not. I just feel like I have to say something because our viewers are going to think that I absolutely hate Christmas, and that's not it. But I think Christmas has become about all the wrong things. I do not like Black Friday shopping, and I hate that things are open on Thanksgiving, and that kind of thing. It's just Christmas has become so commercialized, and it makes me, yeah. But this year I got in the spirit, you guys. I'm being more positive about it. And I really did enjoy decorating my own house. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I think the holidays will be good, even though 2020 hasn't been the best year. It's been fun to be home a little bit and spend some time with the family, and it's good.
Holiday season will be great, especially 2020.
I will tell you that a Charlie Brown Christmas, by far, and that's why it's endearing, is that is all about commercialization. And, when he picks the tree and all that, and, Linus gives a speech in the, on the stage at the school, and, and then they go back. And I mean, that is the best Christmas special ever, because it really does capture the true meaning of Christmas and what the holiday seasons are about. I don't want to, I don't want to sit there and say, wow, Christmas is the best holiday of all time, and disparage anybody and their beliefs and their religions. I don't mean it quite like that. But the Christmas spirit is great.
Right. Agreed, Art.
Great. And it's December. Daniela, take it away.
Thank you, Carly.
That Carly, she's right. Spot on as always.
Big thank you to AAA for presenting Let's Socialize. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Believe it or not, everybody, we have come to the end of another show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, so we'll be back on Thursday at noon. If you missed any of today's show or want to catch up on some past episodes, you can go to the Word on Woodward YouTube page where all of our interviews are uploaded, and you can also listen to the show as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And a reminder, today is Giving Tuesday, everybody. So Autographs for a Cause is happening all the way until 11:59 p.m. tonight, and you can visit DetroitRedWings.com/autographs or Tigers.com/autographs for a cause, and you can learn more there. Again, that is going until 11:59 tonight, so make sure you check it out. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on Thursday.